The word guru means the weighty one, the consciousness that has come into the feet.
Yeah.
The universal has come down, and we've provided a temple space within our own body and consciousness for the universal to reside, meet earth, and have a living revelation.
What if your feet could teach you how to come home to yourself? I'm your host, Colleen Akiko, and this is the third segment of the series, Individuality and Universality, with spiritual teacher and yogi, Matthew Hara. In this soulful episode, the Wisdom of Embodiment, you'll hear some gems around the essence of yoga, the power of grounding, and how being in presence transforms everyday life into sacred practice. Reflect with us on how spiritual depth isn't found in escape, but in grounding, in surrender, and the simple act of just showing up in your own body. I love what you said just a moment ago about coming into the place where you can now listen and now respond. It seems like my mind says, oh, that's not physical. That's more spiritual.
Yeah.
So much under the guise of spirituality is the mind.
Yes.
It's dressing up the mind with spiritual words and maybe taking a teaspoonful of something and saying, yeah, that was a great meal.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, whatever the practice is, yoga, with Chris, we still do the Tai Chi in a small circle.
Yeah.
And same thing as what you're saying, instead of trying to squeeze in all the moves, we may just do a handful. That's a practice that I'm very regular with, so I can speak from there. It's also physical. The breathing involves the body, involves the balance.
Mm-hmm.
There are moments in that practice where even though it's very physical, the physical somehow seems to dissolve. I forget where I am. I forget that I'm in the room. I know my feet are on the ground.
Yeah.
Very important so I don't fall over. But something happens where I just experience this effervescence.
Yes.
That is, it does feel like coming home, but I don't stop and say, oh, I feel like I've come home. It's not like that.
Yep.
It's just such a peaceful, wonderful.
It's the unity.
Yes.
That's what yoga means, right? It's to yoke or to unify. And it's that alignment of when body, mind, and spirit come into greater harmony. Yeah? Then all of a sudden is that feeling of coming home. Or like in the yogic tradition, the goal ultimately is called samadhi, which is absorption of the individual or your sense of individuality into the universal. It's a great marrying of those two dynamic forces, which feels like coming home because we're not just individual, if we are universal. And the magic is only in the heart can those two dynamic forces come into communion and online. And that's the point. There's this misconception in pretty much most spiritual traditions that we are on an ascension path, that we are here to go up and out of this earth.
Right.
The yogic tradition's the opposite, actually. Like the word guru means the weighty one, the consciousness that has come into the feet.
Yeah.
The universal has come down, and we've provided a temple space within our own body and consciousness for the universal to reside, meet earth, and have a living revelation.
So beautiful. Yeah, I wrote a song once called Grow Me Down. With that sense, being the tree, grow me down, take me down from the sky where all my pride is. Let me go down. And it feels so good to go down in the earth.
Yes.
To take that life in that the earth holds for us. And
that's it. Then we're actually affirming embodiment. We're affirming the goodness of this life. We're affirming that it's intelligent actually to be birthed. Where there's so many traditions that actually they're shaming that. They're shaming the body. They're shaming physical desire. They're shaming lovemaking. Like, it's an affirmation of the goodness of life. in so many ways. And it's learning to come into a place of feeling good within your own body.
Yeah.
Because we've resisted and we've chastised and we've condemned all parts and parcels of our own body and self. We used to share this practice in some of our retreats where we literally give each of the participants just a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And just watch from a witness place what your mind's going to start saying about yourself. And we are all the harshest critics on ourselves. And but in a way, that's all life is teaching us through our relationships. Everything is trying to help us to look at ourselves and to cultivate more acceptance, whether it's tightness in my right hip or a resistance in this relationship with this person who brings up this energy in me, right? It's cultivating a potential for us to see and to embrace and therefore grow. And our roots then grow deeper and our consciousness was able to expand then. It's nature's way. It's how it's all designed.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And I'm so grateful that wherever we are in our knowledge of this embodiment, that we don't have to be so far along before we start plugging in. We can be at the very beginning of, oh, you mean that's hey?
Yeah.
Oh, we can just start there. And wherever we are is a perfect place for us to start to say, oh, where are my feet? Oh, my feet are right here. And no matter how far along we come in this life, we always start with our feet.
I'm so happy you said that. Literally, that's every physical yoga class I share. I always start with the feet.
Yeah.
It's the part we forget first because we go to our head.
Yeah.
Right? And most of us hate our feet. Like, don't look at my toes. I'm going to paint those things but there's also a lot of neglect in the feet. We forget about them, especially certain dudes, right? Have just big old long coiled over toenails and it's roll it however you want. But awareness in the feet is crucial for embodiment. Like it is one of the most fundamental and powerful principles. And just being on yoga for a second more, yoga, it's not about being on a mat or doing the official pranayama. It can be done in the supermarket when you're standing in line. Like I literally, it's a presence practice and that's all it is. And all of these great embodiment traditions are that. Tai Chi Gong, surfing.
How many?
Whatever it is, if it's anything done with presence is a spiritual practice, right?
Yeah, I love that. We were talking about the feet. I think it was back in 2011 or 12, something like that. Out of my own personal need, I launched into Reiki certifications and transformational coaching because I needed it myself. And so I set up a practice at a little side office at a chiropractor, graciously let me practice on him and have my little room. And my first client, her mother came to me and said, oh, she's bipolar. The police are always over there. Nothing's working. You're probably not going to work either. She's willing to come because no one else has done this. And I'm like, okay. And I remember the chiropractor at the time says, I know her and I don't think it would be wise. And I'm like, I think I need to do this. And I really didn't know what I was doing, which is the best place to be, I think. My mind had not figured it out. So I did have a massage table and she did not want coaching. She just wanted Reiki. And I was just brand spanking new with this. And I discovered when she came, she was working on her feet all day. And when she came, her feet really stunk and really stinky feet. And all I could think of is you go to a Japanese restaurant, they give you the hot cloths and you clean your hands and you eat. And so I said, all right, we need to work on your feet. And I'm going to give you the special Japanese restaurant treatment. I'm half Japanese. This works. There's a connection there. So I would I go in the bathroom with these white Costco rags and I'd, heat them up as much as I could. I'd put them in a container and I would wrap her feet with hot cloths and I would just Reiki her feet. If I did nothing else, she improved drastically. And the feet, if there was nothing else on the body that I could come near to, the feet would be enough.
That's the major access point, right? The most nerve endings in the body are there. Chinese medicine, of course, focuses so much on that. And Like in the Vedic tradition, the feet are the most sacred part of the body in the guru, because their consciousness has descended so much into the body. Most nerve endings are in the feet. Therefore, they're a power spot, so
Okay.
they'll touch the feet of the guru, or of course, in reverence also to their parents.
Yeah.
For someone who's not a guru or an awakened being, the feet are actually, they make sure not to point them at people, because your densities, what you haven't worked on, can be shooting out of the feet, at least in that tradition. So it makes so much sense that you went to heal that part of the body, because everything can be accessed there in such a impactful way.
And of course, I didn't know that, and I didn't do it for that reason. I just did it because she had stinky feet.
That's the beauty of the universal intelligence, right? Like, it can show up in the most practical or mystical ways, but it has a bigger plan.
There's always a bigger plan.
There's always a bigger plan.
Oh,
And-
if we ever had a sense of that, we would be walking up above. Yeah.
Seriously. And I just wanted to, you said something about your little Reiki story that I feels like so important to highlight. And you said it was your first official person. And so you went in just not knowing, and you thought that was probably better. And that's why it was so powerful. That is exactly right.
Yeah.
My teacher in India used to say that all spiritual growth is an unlearning process.
Yes.
We're unlearning. And this spiritual path is not about building achievements. There are definitely milestones as far as energetically embodying certain things, but it takes one moment to get there. It is an ever invitation to come back. And the moment we are back into that spot, we're in full alignment with the universal. We are already awake.
That's what came to mind when you said that. Chris and I have had an opportunity to, years ago, be in some native meditations that kind of came through our friend. I don't think he was bringing forth a long time tradition as much as this is what he felt was needed. He's a native man. And so here's how we do the meditation. And there's a native word for it. And the translation of that word is, "It is already done." And of course, he would have the drumming and the singing and whatnot as part of the meditation. And then it was a lot like Yoga Nidra in some respects. But that is touchstone for me, because it affirms timelessness.
Yes.
Presence, there is no time.
Yes.
So the truth that I experience and that I know when the illusions have been dissolved, and if it happens next month or next year or whatever, it's not really of any consequence.
Yes, exactly. It's very common for even spiritual people to cultivate this concept that they've really gotten somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, I watched it because I was going to this school in India every year for so many years, and I'm meeting people, they've been consciously on the path for 40, 50 years. They've studied with this person, but they're still seeking for something. There's not the fulfillment. There's not an unconditional space of fulfillment. There's still struggles. There's still conflicts. And there's always room for growth, always. But we can make our spiritual path into a never-ending shopping cart of thinking we need to keep looking for something, where it can be as close as one moment of letting it go, and that's the freedom of stepping into the heart. And Jesus put it best: you must become like a child to enter the kingdom.
Yeah.
The moment we drop any concept, any conclusion, any identification with what happens, if we can learn how to do that, we're automatically already there. And that is the awakened state.
Yes.
It's immediately there. It's how we're intrinsically designed. It's not for a select few. It's a cultivation of being able to step into that space.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to take 14 more lifetimes. That's the beauty and the magic, especially I think, of this time on earth. There is so much grace available. There truly is. There are hundreds of thousands of people who are consciously walking this path, more than ever in the history of this planet, from all kinds of corners of the world. I'd watch it day in and day out at the school. We'd have up to 2,000 students from all over the world sincerely going through their processes. That's so amazing. And that's one little school. And there's so many schools and traditions and yogis. The energy is here for, it's time to do this now.
Yes. It feels like wherever we are, if we're in school or we're in the school of life, having to do the 8 to 5 or whatever.
It's totally become 8 to 5, hasn't it? It's not 9 to 5 anymore. It is. It's definitely 8 to 5 these days.
The 24/7.
The work days are getting longer.
For me, it's knowing I have a choice, and any given challenge or stressful moment, I always have a choice to either, oh, I gotta make this better, coming from a place of what you were talking about. Oh, if I only have this, everything will be fine. Or I have the freedom to say, it is well.
Yeah.
There's a completeness I can come from. And it's the third point that when you were talking about yoga, that after feeling this and experiencing this and knowing this, I come from this place. I come from here. And when I come from there, the matter could be resolved or not resolved, but I am embodying a state of peacefulness in that moment. And from that state, I'm more useful to the people in my life. I function better.
Totally.
I drive the car better.
Yeah. The benefits are across the board.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yeah. And it comes back to the space of non-resistance.
Yeah.
And that's the internal world. It's the space of not resisting what's there. When we're not resisting, all of a sudden, we are in alignment with what's happening. And whatever's happening, then we can respond to it intelligently, or we can just soak it up and enjoy the heck out of it, which is 95% of the time what's called for.
Yeah.
Of course, there's times when we're called to action, but I make the decision to walk over and get water, and then I should enjoy the walk over to get the water and drinking the water, right?
You can.
We don't need to pick up my phone. I don't need to be thinking about what after that. Like, that's the state of living without resistance inside, because then the body's online and we're able to be present and enjoy the journey from moment to moment.
Enjoying the journey. Yeah. I know there are days that it's like being on a boat, just sailing in the sun. And there may be crazy stuff going on in the day, but it has a certain open, expansive feeling. And then the next day, I can notice something happening that's just really irritating me. And if I have the presence of mind, if I say, why is that pissing me off so much?
Yeah.
Or, ooh, I don't want to listen to that.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing? Or is there something that I need to work on? Just the other day, I was in here where I am now, and I was working on something, and someone was talking on the phone, and I just didn't like the tone. So I could either say, what's going on with that person to have that tone of voice? And then immediately this resistance thing comes up. Or I can say, oh, I hope they feel better soon. I'm just going to close the door and turn on some music. And it didn't make any difference on the actual situation, except how I felt. I didn't have to be wrangly toward the person with the tone, because that does close up my heart. I am sensing that more and more. When I sense some non-resistance coming up, what is my heart doing in that moment?
Yeah.
And obviously, if there's some distressful situation going on, I need to leap in and push somebody out of non-resistance. I'm still learning.
We all are.
I am at least starting to discern.
Yeah.
And I am in non-resistance because it feels really peaceful and light. It feels very bright. And the resistance is not comfortable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
The path of an oncoming car or something like that. Not the norm.
And yeah, sometimes it's not fun to notice our resistances, and but I'd also love to just affirm that's okay, like to not feel good, because sometimes there are things that we're called to engage and explore and discover inside ourselves that don't feel good, because we have created and held so much resistance for so long around certain aspects or experiences or whatever, and locked them away. And so sometimes to get to that place of acceptance and spaciousness, there's an unwinding that is called for. And I remember that started to happen really intensely for me after I got back, especially from yoga from India that first time. And just, they call them samskaras, emotional trends or emotional grooves or blocks. They want to start opening, and lots of releases, cries, fears for no reason. Like all of a sudden I'm just seeing intensely through a lens of fear, especially the concepts of good, bad, and evil. And I went through it and I could suddenly see, oh man, I just had that locked in from when I was a kid, and I went to church. They talked about the devil and evil. And then suddenly I formulated this lens of trying to discern what's good and what's evil and it was just this intense emotional pocket that I had stuffed somewhere in my body or in my consciousness. So yeah, that's one thing I think is really important, to have the courage to confront our resistances from a space of loving embrace.
Yeah.
Don't expect them, they're not all going to pop right away and go into bliss. Sometimes it's intense, but that's, I think, what spiritual warriors are here to do right now. They're here to look at the truth even in its dense spots, and to help heal it through the ability to courageously embrace it and shine their light on it through attention.
Yeah. And also there are those, what did you call it? Samskaras?
Samskaras, yeah, samskaras.
When you were talking about that, it reminds me of when I was giving birth, physically giving birth, where there's, of course, you have the contractions. They are intense, they're difficult. And then just before the baby is coming into the final stage of birth, there's this time they call transition, I believe. And yeah, it's, you don't know up from down, nothing makes sense, everything's crazy. And it's the most awfulest feeling in one sense, except the baby's coming. And so it's okay.
Yeah.
And someone said, yeah, you're going to go through this transition time and it's going to feel really unnerving at every level. And that's what happens before the baby's born. And our into being who we are and the full expression of who we are in this body, it is like a birth, because we're so different. Before and after, it's different. But it is like we talked about at the beginning, stepping out of the black and white world into Technicolor.
Yep. It's so beautiful you brought that up like that. That's the transformation, the process of transformation, to move into a space of awakening, or enlightenment, such a heavy word, whatever it is. My teacher used to call it, it's literally a neurobiological shift that occurs. It happens within ourselves first. We start to look at our resistances consciously. The witness consciousness starts to be born more. So we're able to create some space, some discernment. And that breeds this kind of cultivation ground for awareness of presence. And as that comes online more and more, literally the brain starts to change. Literally the energetics, the intrinsic design of our chakras and our energy systems and our nadis starts to come back online. And it's the caterpillar to the butterfly effect. That's what starts to happen. It's a big deal. And it's not all pleasant, like giving birth, right?
And the caterpillar, to become a butterfly, the caterpillar has to become mush and totally lose its past form.
Exactly.
And that's not very
I love that you said that. And that's the unlearning process, right? That's the unlearning of our resistance or our ideas and our identities and we're so sure about this, but do we really? Because if we're actually truly going to be present, it's a space of unknown. We must meet the moment in the unknown. And that's the state of the child, like Christ talked about. They don't meet the world with identifications. They meet it within the realms of the unknown. And then they dream their experience from their heart's joy.
Whoa. There we go. Right there. Dream your experience from your heart's joy.
But we have to be mushy for that to happen.
And that'd be really mushy.
You don't come in with a bunch of tools and ideas and a set of plans. It's tossing all that aside, and it comes down to a space of surrender, like you mentioned too. The monks used to talk about how the higher chakras, from here up, it's all about surrender. Down here, the lower chakras, it's individuality. Yeah, we're learning discernment. We're learning how to operate and use our will. But up here, it's thy will. It's a trusting in a bigger intelligence, which we're connected to.
Thank you for joining us on this We Be the Change journey. Today, we explored the wisdom of embodiment, surrendering into what already is without dressing up the mind with spiritual words. I'm curious about what non-resistance feels like in your day-to-day. Feel free to respond in the comments section or just drop a note to me at SongRise.LIVE. That's SongRise.LIVE. We have a free e-guide you'll enjoy called Embracing Your Evolutionary Luminary right there at SongRise.LIVE. So until next time, this is Colleen Akiko, wishing you the blessings of walking rooted in the sacredness of your own body. May you be in that feeling of coming home with body, mind, and spirit in harmony, in that unlearning experience we call spiritual growth.